Hey co-stars, welcome to the show. My name is British Ben, and the finale of the 6-part Loki series on Disney Plus came out today. Now, I do obviously recommend that you watch the show before you watch this video, okay? Because this video will obviously ruin it for you, so that's your spoiler warning. Oh, I think the graphics guy didn't quite understand. Anyway, so in episode 6, the finale, Loki and his girlfriend, or you could possibly say it's more like his sister, they have defeated Goliath and they arrive at the Citadel at the end of time.
Welcome to the Citadel at the end of time.
And they meet Kang, who is played by Jonathan Majors, who is introduced as He Who Remains.
He who remains.
He who remains. She still calling me that?
Now we will get into what that name means in just a moment, but first of all, let's backtrack to episode 5, where people were already suspicious that Kang would appear in the finale. Now, this character Kang was not scheduled to appear in the Marvel Universe until the 2023 movie Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Quantumania.
Do you guys just put the word quantum in front of everything?
Whatever works, I guess. So anyway, two things in episode 5 in the area called the Void hinted that Kang would appear in the finale. The first one was the Kang Tower. This was a ruin of the Avengers Tower from an alternate timeline, which Tony Stark sold to Kang Enterprises. The CEO of Kang Enterprises was Nathaniel Richards, aka Mr. Griffin, who was one of the alternate realities versions of the character Kang the Conqueror. And then also the fact that Goliath was included in episode 5 gave another hint to the Kang connection. Goliath was a monster who was a rival to Kang with a territory 2 to 3 times bigger and prevented Kang from expanding his empire further back into earlier time periods. He was limited to 2000 years BC. That is the story told in the comic Avengers Terminatrix Objective. So many people thought that Kang would either appear or be alluded to in the final episode of Loki, but we got a full-on reveal. So who actually is Kang? Well, like the character explains in the show, he was a scientist from 31st century Earth. This scientist discovered that there were alternate universes, and alternate versions of Kang also discovered the same thing around the same time, and they made contact. Because Kang was a complete narcissist, all the different versions of him started fighting each other in what came known as the Multiverse War. He also explains in the show that he pacified Goliath and used him to his advantage to gobble up timelines. From the comics, we know that Nathaniel Richards, who would become Kang the Conqueror, was born on Earth 616, which is the main Earth in the Marvel Universe, okay, what we think of as our Earth. He then traveled to Earth 6311, which is also known as the Other Earth. It's an alternate reality Earth that never went through the Dark Ages, and thus technology there is far more advanced. For example, they landed on the moon in 900 AD. But then those ungrateful moon colonists decided that they wanted independence and they fought a war over it. This sounds familiar, where have I heard this before? Anyway, the entire moon was blown up as a result of the war, and parts of it collided with the planet, causing devastation. Kind of similar to the scenes we see in Loki episode 3 on Lamentis 1, where we have a moon and a planet colliding. Maybe that was the inspiration for it. When they were researching Kang, they were like, oh, we could do this as well. So then old Nathaniel Richards shows up in a time machine. He reunites the planet by giving them technology, and he gets married to a woman called Cassandra, and he rules the planet. He takes an ancient citadel that wasn't destroyed in the war as his base, and presumably that is the citadel that we see in the last episode of Loki. Later on, Kang leaves the planet and Cassandra rules as a warlord. Kang's costume in the comics looks like this. It was a purple and green suit with this helmet. Now we do see Kang dressed up in purple when we first see him in Loki, and we also see what looks like the classic costume in the depiction of multiple Kangs fighting each other in the Multiverse War. You can see it's the same costume with the band across the chest and the helmet with a mohawk style part that sticks out of the top of the head. Now the version we see of Kang in the last episode of Loki is the one that won the Multiverse War, hence the title, The One Who Remains. And he is keeping his own timeline secure at the expense of all the other Kangs through the Time Variance Authority, or TVA, and thus that gives rise to the phrase the sacred timeline, okay? It's sacred to him. Now, when Sylvie kills this version of Kang, oh, I told you about spoilers. Why are you still watching? Get out of here if you haven't seen it yet. Go watch it and come back later. Anyway, when Sylvie kills this version of Kang, the one who remains, he is no longer able to control the timeline because he's dead, so all the other Kangs start fighting again, and we already see timelines splitting off in Nexus events. Then Sylvie sends Loki back to the TVA using Kang's own tempad. How she knows how to do that is a mystery. I mean, look at it, there's nothing on it, no buttons, no nothing. But it appears to be a version of the TVA in an alternate timeline because the version of Mobius there thinks that Loki is actually working there as an analyst, and Kang is obviously running the show himself because there is a statue of him in the library. Then, what about Revonna Renslayer? Where does she go when she escapes in the last episode of Loki? Well, let's first look at what we know about Revonna Renslayer from the comics. She is actually a superhero called Terminatrix, at least one version of Revonna, the version from Earth 6311. You know, the Earth where they land on the moon in the year 900 AD. Now, she was the daughter of the king on Earth 6311, and she lived there in the 40th century, and at this time, Earth 6311 was one of the only places not under control of Kang the Conqueror because Kang was in love with Revonna. But she never reciprocated because he was a commoner. Kang, you peasant. So he went and brought the Avengers into the future in the hopes that he could display his prowess in combat against them and impress Revonna enough to win her heart. But the plan backfired because Revonna actually teamed up with the Avengers to fight Kang. Kang then decided enough was enough and brought in his army to conquer the planet. Now, after Kang gained control of Earth 6311, he wanted to prepare a wedding ceremony and force Revonna to marry him. But there was one problem. Kang normally would kill the rulers of planets he conquered in order to prevent rebellions. So one of his generals, General Baltag, saw that Kang was breaking his own rule, he was not killing Revonna, who was the daughter of the king. Baltag decided to lead a rebellion and fight against Kang with his own army. So this led to Revonna, the Avengers, and Kang all to team up and fight Baltag. They defeated him, but as Baltag was being defeated, he fired one final shot at Kang. Revonna got in the way and took the shot, dying herself, and she professed her love for Kang with her final breath. Now, in the comics, Kang then does go off in search of other versions of Revonna from alternate timelines. We won't go into that because it gets a little bit complicated, but it does make you realize why Kang has Revonna running the show at the TVA. Although presumably this isn't the version of Revonna from Earth 6311 because she would be dead, but it is a version of Revonna plucked from our Earth, Earth 616, because you see her as a school teacher in one of the clips in the show.
Who are you? And what the hell are you doing in my school?
Now, Kang delivers some files or maybe instructions to Revonna through their little Windows virtual assistant thing, and she seems ready to embark on a mission, although she lets on that she still doesn't know Kang's identity. Now, when she is confronted by Mobius, she reveals that even this version of Revonna does have a high level of combat ability. Perhaps her innate combat abilities were something revealed to her in the files sent to her by Kang. And then she escapes through a time door. Where is she going? Maybe to Earth 6311? Your guess is as good as mine. But one thing is for certain, that she will most probably return as a villain in season 2, because guess what? If you watch all the way to halfway through the credits, you will know that Loki will return for another season. And that's where I'm going to leave this video, guys. Leave your comments below, and if you want to make a living by talking about fictional superheroes, I know, crazy, isn't it, on YouTube, check out my free masterclass, YouTube Viral Mastery, in the links below. You won't regret it. And we will be back next time with another video, unless I get plucked from the timeline by the TVA. Leave your comments below, please subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.